How to prepare yourself for a long time in prison. This is something I got a little bit of experience in. I would start to say that 4 years is the start of what you call longer sentences. Anything before 4 years you don't even really need to go for parole for. You just get out halfway through your sentence. But once it got to a 4 year sentence, especially on the old rules that I was on, you'd have to go for parole at halfway. And then if you didn't get your parole, you'd get out at 2/3 of your sentence. So I did a 4 year sentence to start with. I got out at 2 years. I then did a little 4 months on breach of license, and then I did a 6 months out of a year sentence after that. My next larger sentence was then I did 4 years. I did 2 years, 8 months out of a 4 year sentence. And then what happened after that one? And then I got the ABH after that. So I got I did 2 years, 9 months out of the 2 year, 9 month sentence, because it was a strange license where it was extended for public protection. And even though it was under 4 years, I still had to go for parole halfway, which I didn't get because obviously I'd broken every bit of trust I'd ever been given. So they made me do the whole 2 years, 9 months. So for one punch, I got the longest sentence I'd ever done, or the longest time behind my door, basically. So the best advice I'd give to people is you've got to adapt to prison quite quickly. It's a different way of life. It's a different ecology. It's a society within those prison walls itself, as I've tried to describe in my other videos. So you need to strip away your day-to-day, your normal life. None of it's going to matter in prison. I was just reading about a guy yesterday in the papers who come down from London. He's got a business in London, and he's got a second home down in Cornwall, where I'm from. And he was driving to the train station, and he hit someone with his car. Now this was a straight goer. This was a normal, everyday dude. He'd built up a successful business, and he lived in Chelsea, second home down in the southwest. Normal, there's 100,000 people down here like that, and possibly never got in trouble with his life. Maybe dabbled in a bit of cocaine. I'm just guessing this because of his successful life. And then suddenly he finds himself 60 mile an hour down the lanes, and he hits someone with a car, with a Range Rover, and he's killed her and sent her 18 meters over a hedge or something. He didn't even realise he'd hit her, I don't think, because he carried on to the train station and left for his trip. He ended up getting found out in court, and he did he got sentenced to 2 years for death by dangerous driving. Now, that's a year in prison for someone who is maybe never even moved in criminal circles before, and now suddenly thrown in with the likes of me, and worse. So, a year in prison for him is going to be something he's going to have to get his head around quickly. And it's going to be completely unfamiliar to someone like that. Now, the further down the chain of coming in and out of prison, the easier it was. It was almost like to the point where I'd have, a bag ready, like pregnant women do for their, for when the baby comes. I would have a bag ready with pants, 7 pairs of pants, 7 pairs of boxers, some money in cash, just some other bits and pieces that I'd know, some gym kit, some shorts that I can sit around in, a couple of books, and I'd have a little bag, the go bag ready to be brought down to the police station, or can you bring that bag up to the cell, up to the courts for me, Phone numbers, you got to get all your phone numbers off your phone and write them down in a little book. Now, handily, the priest comes round the first couple of days when you're in prison, the chaplain or the prison priest, and they give you a little a little year calendar, which is really handy because it's the same little size as a phone book, and you write down all your prison numbers and your prison addresses and everything that you need to send shit out and stuff. And but also you've got your little calendar on the front and back page for the year, and this is a handy little week and month form in a little grid, so you can to start with. I was one of those people that used to always tick off the days. Now that can probably be more mentally challenging than it is useful, but back in the day I used to do that. I used to tick off each day as it came, and towards the end, because you're bored, you at some point you're going to be spending 16 hours behind your door, in a small cell. You can pretty much reach from one wall to the other. If you stand in the middle of the cell and sway with your arms out, you can probably touch both sides of the cell. And then also, as I mentioned in the video the other day, it's about 8 steps. If you stand with your back to the door and then take 8 steps, you'll reach the back wall of your cell. So if you want to try that in your living room, and just, that's how much space you have to live in could be for years. So that's the first couple of things you got to do for yourself, is just kind of basically, get yourself prepared that you're going to be sat down for a long time doing nothing. And then start to get the outside world kind of disconnected as well, because if you imagine you've probably got bills to pay, you've got things in your name, you've got direct debits, all these things have got to be shifted over to a family member or someone you can trust, who can carry on paying these commitments for you while you're in prison. So imagine now you've got no income coming in, but all those little things you've signed up for, the Amazons and the all those things have got to be stopped and cancelled and explained why. A lot of the time you've got to send these little letters out so that, your mum can ring all these people for you and cancel it all off. Because I would always tell my partner to leave me within those first few weeks, because it was almost impossible for me to hold down any kind of relationship whilst almost always being in prison as well. It's tasking not only on my mental health, but obviously it's got to be straining on the person on the outside as well, having to deal with it, and then constantly having to deal with all the people coming and asking questions as well, I imagine, because, I would always end up in prison spectacularly, which would always be causing a shitstorm, So I imagine that would always be difficult, having to deflect all the attention that I caused as well. I never saw many relationships lasting more than 6 months in prison, where one side or the other broke down and just couldn't do it anymore. I do actually have a friend who is still with the person they were with, and he got 6 years, and she stood by him the whole time. They had a kid, and she stood by him the whole time. Would come and visit him all the time, and that's really the key, I think, is the person on the outside really does have to be committed to holding up a relationship with someone who's fucked up so badly that they're in this pen, because that's all it really is to someone on the outside. It's just a holding pen, Inside it's a different culture and a different society and way of life, as I've mentioned a few times, but it's outside it's just a fucking big wall that keeps all the naughty people in, you've got to be motivated to want to keep going back to that, that pen, and visiting someone in there and hold down a relationship with them for all that time. Now, relationships with families and friends are going to suffer as well. Perversely, my relationship with my mum actually got better while I was in prison, because we had time to talk things over, without me being a criminal, active criminal on the outside. So actually it got to improve now. As I've going to mention, in my book and things, a lot of the reason I was in prison is because of the relationship with my mum to start with, and the choices she made. That probably led me on a path that sent me to prison. There's a lot of trauma between me and my mum, but we managed to sort some things out, and we're still on good terms now. Now, friends are a lot more fleeting. You'll get a lot of letters from people when you first go into prison. A lot of people will be still in contact and things, and sending you money and bits and pieces, and then that'll all start to, over that 6 month period, that'll all start to dry up, and you'll be surprised that, after a year, if you're maybe even speaking to one or two of them anymore, and things will start to dry up. And when you get into that last sort of 3 or 4 months before you get out, you'll start reaching out to people again, and then the contact starts to come back, and you'll find out who your real friends are, because half of them would have moved on and deleted their number. You won't hear from them again, but there'll be a handful that you might still be in contact with. And the weird thing is because when you're in prison, your kind of life and your mentality goes on hold, or if you're like me, you end up kind of changing who you are, because for me, I was too soft at the beginning to survive in prison, so I had to physically and mentally change who I was. So when I came out, A lot of the people that used to hang around with me didn't anymore, because I wasn't that kind of soft, soft fucking surfer dude who used to hang around smoking hash with them. I'd become this fucking little nutcase who kicked off and got loud all the time. And that wasn't what they were into. Now, the discipline is what keeps you going in prison. Obviously, the routine is fucking set in stone. So, as long as you just plug into it and just keep getting up in the morning, do what you need to do, brush your teeth, get up, go to whatever little task they've allocated to you. You're not even working that hard. It's not like a 9 to 5 outside. It's much harder to get up and work for 9 hours out here than it is for working at a job in prison. They send you. You go to work at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that, and you come back at 11:30, and you're in your cell for another 2 or 3 hours, and then you back out at 2 and come back at 4. So it's not like a real job. So as long as you can handle that in prison, then you can you can just plug into a routine and just get by day by day. Now, one of the gifts that prison's given me has been this kind of ridiculous level of patience that I have now. I can plug into a task and give myself, a month, 3 months, a year, 2 years and beyond. And I know that every morning I'll get up, every morning I'll be able to turn up and, get this task done. Whereas, a lot of people struggle with that kind of discipline because they've never had, that rigid routine for years that has led me to be able to do this and accomplish these things. And that's one of the gifts that I think I've actually had from prison, is that it has given me this ridiculous kind of patience and focus that a lot of people on the outside don't get to experience. So these are things that I can help and sort of pass on to other people, because a lot of the people that are young 20-year-old now or a young 17-year-old out on the streets might be trying to impress. I can tell you for a fact that in my 30s I know maybe 2 people that I went to school with, and now I'm approaching my 40s. There's one guy that I used to go to school with that I actually know now, let alone hang around with, or still trying to impress. So the people that these kids are trying to impress, I can guarantee you are definitely not going to be in their lives when they're in their 30s and 40s, and they're still trying to deal with the mental health of the decisions that they made in their teens, and the fact that I spent all my 20s in prison, trying to impress a bunch of people in a pub and in my community and my circles, when the reality of it is no one even thinks about me now. So what the hell was the point of that? Back to the subject, dealing with years in prison. Focus, discipline, routine, that will get you through. I found that cutting off ties with the outside made it a bit easier. Sometimes you don't want those letters telling you how great everything is, how well things are doing. Even just the smell of the letter, if it's been written by a girl, you can sometimes just smell the perfume on the paper where her hand's been pushed against it, sort of thing. And just that kind of outside smells can really mess with your head while you're in prison. I found that this, becoming a monk, just getting my head down, dealing with it, and just try and get myself back into real life again once you get out. Now, prison will try and dehumanise you as well. They'll always use your surname. So I was always Bonnie, and then they use the last 3 digits of your prison number. So it was sort of 883. Bonnie 883 is how they would speak to you. So that's all you become. And there'd be a few inmates that would call you by your first name, and they'd want to be called by their first name. But I always found it odd. I don't know, I just always sort of just went with the flow of the system, and towards the end of the sentence, and by the end of 2 years, when no one's used my name William for so long, I would find it difficult. And especially people, when you get out and people are sort of saying, "Oh, William," and you wouldn't react at first because you hadn't heard your name in so long, and that's a weird thing to have to kind of to deal with. I think this time, if I went in, I would try and keep my name. So if people asked me who I was, I would tell them I was William. Not that I'm planning on going back, but you never know. these things happen. Like old boy with his Range Rover. You never know when you're going to be finding yourself suddenly at the prison gates. So, yeah, dealing with a long time in prison, routine, discipline, try and get your head into the long-term game. Maybe this is why I find marathon running, well, not marathon running, but long distance running so attractive, because you just get a chance to get your head into a few tasks. I find that long distance walking at the moment, where you spend sort of 2 or 3 hours just out walking, is a great way of just unraveling all the shit that goes on in your head. Maybe that's something again that I've got from prison. You just give yourself long enough, and you'll work it out in the end. So yeah, this isn't supposed to be a guide to how to survive prison, but it can also just be a guide of how to deal with tasks outside. So if you're looking at a college course, or maybe 2 years to sort your life out, give yourself a year to get yourself a promotion. Set it out month by month, week by week, day by day, what you're going to do, how you're going to get there. A ladder only goes up, and as long as you follow the steps, you'll always get to the end of it. So that's it. That's my Dr. Phil moment, whatever it was. Alright, so someone was talking about ASMR videos in the comments last night, so I've been having a look at that and seeing if I can maybe we'll do a crime story ASMR video. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know, because apparently I've got a good voice for it. So let me know what you think. I always read all the comments, good and bad. Obviously, hello to the people who don't think I could cut it. But love you all. Speak to you soon. Cheers.